Hello and welcome back to my channel. Friday. I told y'all I would be here and I am here and we are just going to dive in. Okay, we're gonna get right into it. The big news of the day, something that I talked about yesterday. Yes, Blake Lively, Miss Snake Lively, was on Seth Meyers' late night talk show and I'm sure he's regretting that. We'll get into that. And then there's the motions that have been filed in the last couple of days with Wayfarer and Blake Lively and the Sloane parties, and oh my gosh, yesterday I said I would read through them because they were like over 200 pages long. We do have a response now from the Wayfarer parties. We'll get into all of that, and I have some things to say. We are going to start with the Seth Meyers interview, which is now going everywhere because let's just get into it, okay? Grab your emotional lip gloss because we are going to go there. We are going to get into it. And if you're ready, I'm ready. You're in frame with Mandy Magnan. Hello, people. Happy Friday. Oh, Friday is always such a good day for everyone. Here it was kind of a gloomy morning, but the sun is shining through. Thank you to everyone who sent me well wishes. It was a rough 48 hours, but I feel like I'm back. I went through it, you know. Speaking of Fridays, Friday probably wasn't a good day for Seth Meyers waking up because currently on his YouTube channel where they have the Blake Lively interview, comments are turned off. How interesting, and how I think is very rude because I didn't get to read any of them before the comments got turned off. But I'm sure there are screenshots somewhere and I will find them and we'll go through them because the whole world is resonating exactly what we've been saying for so long. Shame, 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 liar, liar, pants on fire. What we're going to do is go over the interview. I mean, the parts that I feel like are relevant, I guess, because it was only about a 12-minute interview. It was a joke, again, a mockery. And what I've been saying all along for the last couple months is what they are really trying to do is rebrand Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds as the best husband and wife and loving and caring and supportive partner. And they are trying to really rebrand Blake as this pro-woman activist, this women's rights fighter, and be this huge like advocate for women's rights and mother of the year and wife of the year and woman of the year times 100 most influential people, and pump the brakes because it's gross, it's distasteful, it's disingenuous, and it's a lie. Okay, so we're gonna watch the interview. I am gonna have to stop and start and stop it because of, you know, copyright and stuff. And we are going to go there, but we are not going to stay there because I know as a woman, as a survivor, how infuriating it can be to continually watch Blake Lively lie through her teeth in support of all women and use women's real pain and trauma to try to pull one over on the world who maybe isn't educated in this claim and will believe what she's saying, but don't, because it is a lie. And everything she says, pretty much, in my opinion, is for PR and a lie and is just not founded in any truth, as well as she's just like not a good person. And you don't change overnight. I'm sorry, it takes time. So let's just get into that right now.
Welcome back, everybody. Our first guest tonight is a talented actress and producer you know from her work on Gossip Girls and movies such as The Town, It Ends With Us, The Shallows, and A Simple Favor. You can see her next in Another Simple Favor, which
producer? Huh, interesting. No president, chief officer of Van Zandt Inc.
Please welcome back to the show, Blake Lively, everybody.
That outfit is so absolutely hideous and ridiculous.
Hey. You know, there are certain guests where I'm like, I really should just go back to a suit for tonight. This is a fantastic outfit.
Wear your wedding gown?
It's amazing. It's a lot of dress.
It's big, though. I'm like, where do I put it all?
We'll bring a supersized chair for your next large dress. Hey, I know your husband Ryan has his own line of gin. Yes. Is that the gin in the scene?
No.
Really?
No, it is Paul Feig's gin.
The director put his gin in.
The director put his gin in.
Do you have to go home and tell Ryan, like, I have bad news?
No, it was like, baby, I have something to tell you. We're going to talk about it here, and we're going to forget it ever happened.
Gotcha.
Okay? No, but it was, Emily is a...
Wow. So, of course he has to say that because, you know, Blake Lively was under a lot of heat in an old interview that came up where she bamboozled Ryan Reynolds' gin, his aviation gin, onto the first The Simple Favor. And then even Paul Feig had to come out and redo his statement on that entire issue. So hilarious, so funny. Ugh.
Happened.
Gotcha.
Okay? No, but it was Emily is a changed woman in this movie. She drinks martinis with ice.
That's very exciting.
Which is a big deal.
That is a big deal.
If you saw the first one, you'd understand why it's a big deal. She has beef with ice.
Do you in life have beef with ice?
No, I love ice.
Yeah.
I really
like ice too. I think the first time we got an ice machine in a refrigerator, it was like the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, no, but like the crushed ice when you go to a fancy place, like you know the right.
It's so funny
when you go to a fancy place for crushed ice, Blake, don't lie. You have a refrigerator, I bet, in your kitchen that does crushed ice. Okay, like a fancy place that has crushed ice. So then anyway, they go into talking about ice, crushed ice, for about 2 minutes or so, and Frozen. Exhilarating.
The boy's so romantic. When I walk in, he goes, "Mama, my love." Oh, he's just like, he's just a dream. I mean, like they're chaos. It's chaos at all times.
Do you feel as though he was more loving than your daughters were at that age?
Well, I know, it's different. It's just different. Like, he's just, like, announces that I'm the love of his life at all times, which is, like, just the best feeling in the world. So
That's
just, like,
a really nice feeling, yeah.
I get dressed every day like a girl in middle school, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I hope he thinks so.
That's very good, because I don't think any other man in her household does that. I'm just being honest. I don't think up until last week Ryan Reynolds ever said that. Really. I mean, he rarely posts about Blake, rarely talks about her.
I'll be like, says something.
Do your daughters ever criticize your outfits?
Oh, yeah. No, one of my daughters has the same birthday as Napoleon and Jennifer Lawrence. So if you imagine, like, those two blended.
Is that how it works? Is that how birthdays work? You blend?
I think so. I don't know.
But you brought it up. You brought up the mesh of birthdays. So, what?
I don't know a lot about star signs. I heard someone said the other day that if your son texts you and says, like, "Mom, I'm on a date, she's asking my star sign, what should I say?" And the mom texts back, "Run."
That's very good.
Now I'm afraid to, like, know too much about star signs. But I think there's something with birthdays. Like, she's the funniest person in the world, but she will definitely, like, rule the world with authoritarian leadership.
Was that a jab to women who like astrology? Because she just brought up birthdays and astrology. She mentioned her daughter's birthday in order to combine her personality and fashion, but then gears in a different way. It's very weird. This is very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think there's something with birthdays. Like,
okay.
She's the funniest person in the world, but she will definitely, like, rule the world with authoritarian leadership.
Well, that's something to look
She's going to rule the world with authoritarian leadership.
No surprise, I've had, like, a pretty intense year, and, like, they're just my lifeline. Like, no matter what day I'm having, I have to be Disneyland every day for them. And so it's, like, it's the best. I mean, it's chaos, but it's yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned you had an intense year. I'm maybe not as totally informed about it as other people. But
I'm thrilled you're not doing Weekend Update right now, because you would be quite informed. So it's good, yeah.
But were I to ask you about it, I imagine you're in a situation where you can't say much.
Yeah, I mean, what I can say without going too into it is that this year has been full of the highest highs and the lowest lows of my life, and I see so many women around afraid to speak, especially right now, afraid to share their experiences, and fear is by design. It's what keeps us silent. But I also acknowledge that many people don't have the opportunity to speak, so I do feel fortunate that I've been able to.
She's using a lot of words to fear, afraid to speak. She's using a lot of words that, they're driving home a point that Blake Lively is unafraid, and she's speaking up, and she's doing it for all the women who aren't able to speak. This is the whole point of what she keeps saying after her Time 100 and now this weird interview.
And it's the women who have had the ability to use their voice that's kept me strong and helped me in my belief and my fight for the world to be safer for women and girls. It's a pretty simple thing, but nothing. Thank you. It's true.
I'm certainly going to respect that you're in a position where you can't talk about it more, and I obviously think a lot of people hoped we would talk about it more.
The clap, I feel like, was so delayed. They probably had those things. Applaud, applaud, applaud. It's a pretty simple thing. Is it? Is it, Blake? You're lying. And Seth Meyers, shame on you for coming out and saying, oh, I don't know that much about it. This could be you that she's falsely accusing, or another woman comes out and falsely accuse. She has been proven to be lying about the entire thing. Number one, the smear campaign has no proof, zero evidence. That's been proven since Jed Wallace filed his amended complaint, his response. She originally filed a lawsuit in Texas against Jed in order to get his deposition to prove the smear campaign, and before he can provide her with the truth, which was that there was no smear campaign, she pulled her lawsuit. She filed a sham lawsuit in order to subpoena Stephanie motherfucking Jones for the text messages. Got the text messages, and all it proved is that everyone thinks Blake, like us, is a monster. And then still didn't have enough. Her reputation was tanking. And they were like, you know what? We need to rebrand her. This whole guy's girl and brash Blake no teeth Lively isn't working. So in order for her to be a Lily Bloom, we need to have an attacker. In order to be a victim and to rebrand and hit the depths of your bottom and your lowest low, in order to rise up, we need someone to shut it down, because it wasn't enough to just take responsibility and accountability. You needed a monster in your story. You needed a villain in order for you to play the victim. Disgusting. They then go on to talk about the Wrexham Football League, promoting another simple favor, blah, 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 blah. It's honestly annoying and exhausting, if I'm being honest. And what's really interesting is the more they keep going on this rebranding PR tour, the Wayfarer parties are probably sitting back, and their lawyers, you know what they're telling them? Let them. Because they have a way of just telling on themselves. They have a way of just literally ruining it for themselves. And I want to go back to Blake Lively's amended complaint for a moment, if we can. This is really going to hurt, because while she's over here doing all this PR tour and doing all of this stuff and rebranding and going to red carpets and SNL and the Time 100, and when something like this happens to you, in her own words, where she was repeatedly sexually harassed, repeatedly sexually harassed. When something happens to you where your rights are taken away, your voice is taken away, and you are violated, as I'm going to speak as a woman, it changes you. But as a man as well, it changes you. And I want to go back to what changed Justin Baldoni, who he openly talks about. When he was in his early 20s, he was sexually assaulted. And that changed him. It changed the course of his life. And it really made him take pause and reflect on, first of all, what consent is, relationships, the responsibility that men have to take in order to look inside themselves and have hard conversations to change, etc., etc., etc. It changes you, okay? Blake, after being repeatedly SH, number one, stayed on set. Her husband's Ryan Reynolds. Her best friend's Taylor Swift. Her other best friends are Bradley Cooper and Gigi Hadid. Really? Hugh Jackman? Really? Okay, they all, we're just like, you know what? Just file a 17-list point and go back to work. Make the movie happen. Please, come on. Okay, so not only did she continue to work on the set, never officially reported, never called the union, never told her lawyers. Okay, that's number one. After it was wrapped, when she could have distanced herself, got away from the situation, had nothing further to do with it until it came to her contractual obligation to do the PR tour. Instead, what she decided to do was claw her way in and hijack the editing of the movie. And you're telling me someone is able to sit in that editing room and watch herself be repeatedly sexually harassed and then promote the movie the way she promoted it. And not only that, at the same time, simultaneously, going to film another movie, Another Simple Favor. What? And never did she change, never did she alter, never was ever any of this brought up. Violations, being harassed, being in dangerous situations. Never once did she bring up anything to do with domestic violence, with sexual harassment, with assault, with anything to do with any violation on a woman until her speech at the Time 100. I think she brought up domestic violence once during the entire PR tour, and that was after Wayfarer sent emails to Sony Marketing as well as to Lively's camp to beg her to pivot, to change the tone. But what this is going to do, this whole PR tour for the last, 2-3 weeks, it's going to hurt her case. And I'm sure Brian Freeman is with his lawyers laughing, telling Wayfarer to still remain silent, stay low. The truth is on your side. And if Ryan and Blake want to keep going and making fools out of themselves, let them, because this is going to hurt her. Because let's go right here in the highlighted part to her lawsuit. The emotional impact on Miss Lively has been extreme, not only affecting her, but her family, including her husband and 4 children. There are days when she has struggled to get out of bed, and she frequently chooses not to venture outside in public. While she has fought to maintain her personal life and business interests, behind closed doors she has suffered from grief, fear, trauma, and extreme anxiety. She also has been experiencing repeated and painful physical symptoms as a result of this experience. Mr. Reynolds, too, has been affected mentally, physically, and professionally by his wife's and children's pain. Worst of all, however, has been the impact on their young children. Worst of all, however, has been the impact on their young children who have been traumatized and emotionally uprooted in ways that have been substantially impacting their well-being. That seems a little bit different than what Blake Lively just had to say. Let's listen to what she had to say again.
Which is like just the best feeling in the world.
So
just
a
like
really nice feeling, yeah.
I get dressed every day like a girl in middle school, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope he thinks I hope he says something. But it is nice though, because they're honestly, I mean, it's no surprise I've had like a pretty intense year, and like they're just my lifeline. Like no matter what day I'm having, I have to be Disneyland every day for them, and so it's like, it's the best. I mean, it's chaos, but it's yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very, 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 very honest when I say this. Blake, go away. You are not an advocate for women. I don't think many women want you speaking for them. And the way you're speaking, like something, like you're lying. You haven't proved anything. In fact, it's been proven already that you lied. Dance montage, lie. Birthing scene, lie. Smear campaign, lie. Going into your trailer unannounced while pumping, a lie, because you invited them. Your 17-point demand to prove that SH was happening, a lie, because the very next day you invited Justin Baldoni to set. The very next day you invited him into your trailer, as well as had your kids on set the very next day. So you're trying to prove that the all-hands meeting on January 4th was to finally set things straight. Also, what you're considering SH, you're telling other female co-stars, are hugs. Hugging on set. Ask any single person who works on set and they'll tell you that you hug. What? Okay. And now let's just talk about how you are going about this whole wording. And this is how I know that you are lying, okay? Because number one, your defense, when a lot of women, I think, over 50, 80 women came forward about Harvey Weinstein, what did you have to say then? When you were asked about Harvey Weinstein and all the allegations of misconduct and the patterns of misconduct, you said, that was never my experience with Harvey in any way whatsoever. I think that if people heard these stories, I do believe in humanity enough to think that this wouldn't have just continued. I have never heard any stories like this. I never heard anything specific, but it's devastating to hear. Okay. But then you know what else happened is you got under heat for that. You got under heat for your support of Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein also helped fund Vision PR. The dog is barking. And people didn't really like that, obviously. People didn't really like that you were defending Harvey Weinstein or not believing the women or whatever kind of statement that was, right? But then what did you do? What did you do? You told a story. I won't say whether it's fabricated or not. I'll let everyone else make up their own opinions about it. You went on to tell a story about how you were on a set with a male makeup artist who continually used his finger to apply your lipstick, and you reported him for sexual harassment. And this continued for months. And the studio refused to do anything about it, in your own words. And you reported it, and they refused to do anything about it. And then one day they pulled you into their office, and you had assumed that it was going to be about the makeup artist who was using his finger to apply lipstick, which is actually a common thing to do. But anyway, then they told you about how your dog was on set and was pooping behind your trailer, and that wasn't allowed, and how you'd have to clean it up. And you were shocked that they were talking to you about your dog pooping and not about the sexual harassment. And they continued to keep that makeup artist until, I guess, you alleged that he was, or at one point or another, you had seen him taking photos of you while you were sleeping on set. I'm not sure why you're sleeping on set, if he took pictures of you. If he did, that is unbelievably disgusting. But then they still refused to do anything, in your own words. So then you went to your lawyers. And then when you went back to the studio, you had informed them that if they don't do anything about this makeup artist, that you were going to get your lawyers involved. And then that's when they let the makeup artist go. And they gave him a letter of reference, actually, for his work. And you were fine. So at the Time 100, instead of speaking about your own experience of sexual harassment on set with that makeup artist, you chose to use a story about your mom from over 40 years ago that had nothing to do with a man, even though you said the worst crime committed against a woman. It was a female coworker who was arguing with your mom, but also during the entire PR of It Ends With Us, you never talked about that experience, which makes me think that it wasn't true. You were just using it, again, as good PR to cover the Harvey Weinstein backing. Just like you gave the donation to the NCAAP to cover the backlash you were getting about getting married on a plantation. Do you see how it all comes together? All your good deeds, everything that you try to do is to cover evils. That's exactly what's happening here. So I find it alarming that you could still be trying to speak on behalf of all women. And not only that, but now you're so open to talk about your kids, when any other time it was like, don't ask Blake about her pregnancy or about being a mother. And now you're so open to do it because you want to make the world safer for women and children. It's that simple, right? It's that simple. Was it okay for your child to be doing this?
Your opinion, I'll take Wolverine's dick out of your mouth.
That's kid guiltily. That is my daughter, Inez.
I'm so sorry we have to admit that.
And I am Father of the Year over here for allowing her to say such language, which, to her credit, she really didn't want to say. and then came back later and said, I want to say it now, when I started looking at other people to play
Yeah,
it.
but Ryan, to our discredit, we made Nezzy do, I'm not shitting you, 70 to 500 versions of that line.
Yeah, I'm going to pay for that later.
Awkward. So she didn't want to do it, and then you made her do it 500 times? And one more thing, because we know how much you're just trad wife 2025 and such a loving mother, you know, it's just, you know, when you watch back her videos and how during the Ends With Us press tour, she did a radio show where she was saying that she made her son a cake of boobs. I don't think she even used those words, but boobs. And her favorite comedy movie is Shawshank Redemption. And then also asked, out of all of the characters of Sex and the City, which is her favorite character? And she says, the men, you know, that whole time of being a boy's girl and he's Blake Lively and a ball buster. Well, that's not working in her favor anymore. So they need the women's support. So what better way to get women's support is because 1 in 3 women have been violated is to be a victim. But guess what? We see right through it because there's no way that you guys think this is actually going to work. And let's just see really how you feel about, you know, jokes that you've made before about motherhood.
Your favorite past look that you've ever had in a
I
makeup?
can't think of favorite. It's like picking a favorite kid, except I love my looks even more than my children.
Yeah, you love your looks better than your kids. Haha, that's so funny. Wow, hilarious. And today there was a website I randomly found that quoted, "Will Another Simple Favor receive an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Television Movie?" Ryan Reynolds, if you buy this woman an Emmy, gross. No, this movie doesn't deserve a freaking Emmy. Are we being serious? But you know what? I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it to see how good or how bad it is. I already know the plot line. I've already heard a lot of twists that happen. And I am not going to watch it. This is what I did instead when it popped up on my Prime last night. Just like that, you can hit the button to hide this movie title. I can't urge anyone what to do or not to do. Watch it if you want to watch it. If you want to support Anna Kendrick or Paul Feig or any of the stars in here, please go ahead, do what you want to do. For me personally, I will not be entertaining this film whatsoever. And please, let's stop trying to change the narrative. Oh my God, Blake wasn't wearing her wedding ring. What does it mean? What does it mean? Nothing. Blake is and has always tried to be a fashionista. She often doesn't wear her wedding ring. Please, now it's going to be like, is there trouble? Are they split? Stop it. It's not important. And that's all I'm going to give that energy to on this conversation because, wow, y'all will just run with anything. It's so crazy. I don't think anything about it, about her not wearing her wedding ring. Why is this even a thing? Now, before I get into an interview that Paul Feig did on People at People magazine or whatever, I do want to say that at the end of this whole rebranding and PR tour and at the end of this lawsuit, I hope there is justice for Justin and the Wayfarer parties, and I hope the wrongs do get written and that $400 million check signed and delivered, and that these people, the Lively parties, including Fake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Stephanie motherfucking Jones, and Sloane, take their ride into oblivion. And let's just see what oblivion means here. The state of being completely forgotten or unknown, especially by the public. Yes. Goodbye. See you later. Shirts available at inkslaytees.com. Link in the bio. Paul Feig, the director of Another Simple Favor, gets frustrated by online gang attacking Blake Lively. You don't know what you're talking about, he says. Interesting. Let's hear him out. Blake is an amazing collaborator, so when I read people's misconceptions about how movies are made, it's just frustrating for me, he said. Every star I've worked with works this way. The idea that a star just shows up and you go, here's the script, please point me to one movie star who works that way. it isn't just about not having your creative input. Every actor, of course, brings their je ne sais quoi, their magic to the role. That's why there's auditions, callbacks, chemistry reads, etc., etc. And yes, some actors will redact certain lines or check first with producers, writers, the creative team to see maybe this doesn't seem right, but can we say it this way because I think through my motive of the character, the line would be like this, etc., etc. What we're mad about is that she took over the entire movie, the wardrobe, the dailies, the edit, the entire PR. Hello. She has said it in her own words. She gets hired as an actor and that's not enough, that she needs more. But you know what a lot of actors and stars do is they take the script and they lift the words that the writers have worked so hard on off the page and they act them out. That's the job. Yes, you collaborate. Yes, you are able to make changes if you have a very great reason as to why. But you get the script ahead of time. You learn your lines. You go through maybe table reads, rehearsals if you're lucky. And then you show up to set and you shoot it. And sometimes you're able to improvise or have your little twist on it, but not the entire script. Blake Lively on It Ends With Us was rewriting all characters' lines. She rewrote the entire script almost daily. There's proof. This is so weird of a statement. So when the gang on the internet get up in arms about something, it's just like, guys, you don't know what you're talking about, Feig added in the Esquire interview. I love working with Blake. She's just the best. Well, you keep doing that. Congratulations. But Mr. Paul Feig, I hope you kept that same energy that you have for us, the internet gang, that you have for your wife. Because remember when your wife was just attacking people and going off in the comments, you know, going after Justin Baldoni's wife, going after anyone that had anything bad to say about Blake. I mean, she was also getting so angry. So I hope maybe you had some words for her as well. And I know, everyone, I know it's exhausting. I know we are tired of the Blake and Ryan show. If you think about even the last 15 years, how often did you ever see them in the spotlight? Not this much. Not this much. That's how you know they want to do exactly what I said in my last video. They are attacking us with so we become drained, so we become exhausted, so that we're looking at them while all of this other stuff is happening over here. Okay, this is a media blitz. This is a huge publicity stunt, and it's not going to work in their favor. And there's a part of me that never, ever, ever wants to talk about Blake Lively again or Ryan Reynolds. I just want them to slowly sip into oblivion. Get your ticket and go now, please. Never return. But then I think, what an injustice for the Wayfarer parties and Justin Baldoni, who right now cannot use their voice. And whenever their lawyer does say something, the opposing team, the Lively parties, bash him for speaking to the media. And who is to defend David when David is fighting Goliath, but currently right now cannot speak? Do you know? And for Blake to continue to use the words, women are afraid to speak up, women are fearful to speak up, and that's why she has. Yes and no. I think since the Me Too movement, where women had spoke up and a Me Too movement started in order to spread awareness around the world to make sure that when women do speak up, they are believed enough to see it through to the court system and to know and recognize that 1 in 3 women will be violated in their life. Okay? I feel like the women that I know and a lot of women in my life, it's more than that. I mean, to have it done once, I feel like is rare. Do you know? I think it happens a lot more than even 1 in 3. in my personal opinion. I think this whole thing is trying to brainwash us into thinking something about Blake that she is not. And it's just at this point, I think it's really sad and it's aggravating. And I'm just so over it. And I'm tired of being infuriated by her absolute nonsensical, egotistical, narcissistic, disgusting, deluded mindset. And I cannot wait to see justice be done. With that being said, let's get into one of my favorite parts, court documents. There has been some things filed. As I said yesterday, there was this huge motion filed. It was there was all these exhibits. It was over 200 pages. And I'm going to quickly give you the footnotes, kind of just a brief summary of it, because really, there's no important information in order to go over everything, because there's already been a response, and the response will actually explain everything that is happening in the motion. So let's just quickly go over all of the stuff that has been happening. But of course, like always, drop your comments. How do you feel about this whole situation? How do you feel about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds continually pushing themselves in our face, and now Blake Lively being an advocate for all women's voices who have been violated? It's drop your comments, okay? First, starting off in the Jed Wallace. So y'all have to know there are 3 so far lawsuits going on. There's Abel and Sloane. There's Jed Wallace and Blake Lively. And then there's Blake Lively and all of the Wayfarer parties. In the Jed Wallace, which is what we went over, his response, where I feel like he just broke the news out, completely dragged Blake. It's a great video. I think it's a good watch, so go check it out. But today there was a motion filed to extend their time to reply to the amended complaint. So an unopposed motion for extension of time was filed. And that's pretty much it. So they're granting a motion to extend the deadline for defendant to respond to plaintiff's first amended complaint. And I think they're going to need some time to reply to that one, because damn. On April 30th, a letter motion to compel Wayfarer parties to respond to interrogatories. Oh gosh, are we off to a good start or what? On 3, 4, 5, and 7, and request for production number 32 addressed to Judge Lehman. This comes from Leslie Sloan. Then they did a selected parties, which was very confusing, because they actually put, if you can see, they put everyone, including Ryan Reynolds, in there, the New York Times. And I think that was only supposed to be really the Wayfarer parties, but whatever. They had selected parties to a letter, a motion to compel the Wayfarer parties to respond. So they filed that. And then there was an order denying the motion to dismiss. So this was for Jones Works. So because the Wayfarer parties and Jennifer Abel did an amended complaint and lawsuit, her original motion to get dismissed has been waived. So she can either choose to answer the amended third-party complaint or file a new motion for dismissal. At this point, I think anyone filing to get dismissed, including Marvel, is out of their mind. However, that's just my opinion, of course, extremely biased. And then what we're going to get into specifically is exactly what that means from the Sloan party, her letter motion to compel, as well as the response in opposition to motion. And that was filed today from the Wayfarer party. So let's just quickly get into the first one, which is filed by Leslie Sloan. Again, if you look at all the exhibits, some of them are attorney eyes only, so you can't see them, but there are some that I could see, and it was very long. So I'm just going to give you a brief summary exactly of what that meant. Okay, so I have quick notes here so I don't bore everyone to death by reading hundreds and hundreds of court documents, because it's really all just kind of saying very short and simple what they want. They want the Wayfarer parties. They are claiming that the Wayfarer parties have not provided them with a response to the following discovery items: interrogatories, 3, 4, 5, and 7, which we will get into, as well as a request for production, number 32. The motion also includes some attachments, which I showed you. And basically what the Sloan parties are saying is that they asked Wayfarer for all these interrogatories and they haven't provided them. So interrogatory number 3, they want to identify each person the Sloan parties allegedly communicated with regarding the Wayfarer parties. That is to uncover who allegedly received the defamatory or false light statements. The argument is that the Sloan parties argue that this is critical because they are accused of doing or saying something to someone, but they're not sure to who or when or whom. The Wayfarers are objecting to all of these and have objected to all of these, citing Civil Rule 33.3, which we'll get into. Then they're also saying that each defamatory statement that the Sloan parties made, they just pretty much want to know who it is, when it was said, and exactly who. They're really, really trying to pull out all of the people and all of the witnesses that the Wayfarer parties have. They also wanted the interrogatory on number 5, which is identify each of the malicious stories portraying Baldoni as a sexual predator, which is cited in the amended complaint. So they want to know which articles are alleged to be defamatory. So what did Leslie Sloan say to each article, and so that she can defend herself. And also they want to identify each of the stories critical of Baldoni, including that Baldoni was a sexual predator ahead of the film's release. So that's mentioned in the amended complaint that Leslie Sloan was leaking stories and saying all of this stuff to the press, and that she actually was the one doing the smear campaign for Blake Lively against Justin Baldoni. So they just want to know who it was, when it was, where the article is, and so that they can defend themselves. But the Wayfarers are objecting to all of this, citing Rule 33.3. And if we remember, in the amended complaint filed by the Wayfarer parties, they had mentioned that they have additional evidence to support their defamation claims, yet the Sloan parties are claiming that they haven't produced any of it yet. So if they do have any additional evidence, then it becomes discoverable at that time. And if not, then why would they say that? The Sloan parties in this motion are arguing that they are entitled to this information now because they are in the discovery process, not only because it forms the core of the defamation allegations, but because the Wayfarer parties failed to plead these claims with the required specificity and still have not clarified what was said, to whom or when, or what articles were used, or who the investigator was, or the journalist, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So basically the Sloan parties are just saying, hey, you're saying we said all of this stuff, but yet you haven't said when, with who, with what publication, Before we continue, because they are citing local civil rule 33.3, here's how it works. I thought it would be interesting just to go over kind of how it works, because one party's citing one way and then the other party's saying it's not. So let's just talk about it. Here's how Civil Rule 33.3 works. How it works. A. Initial interrogatories limited to basic information. Before depositions or document discovery, interrogatories can only seek 1. Names of witnesses with knowledge or relevant facts. 2. Locations of documents and evidence. 3. Computation of damages. 4. Insurance coverage information. These are called contention interrogatories and are generally not allowed early in the case. B. Broader interrogatories allowed after discovery begins. Once discovery has progressed, usually after document production or depositions, parties may serve interrogatories that seek more detailed information, but only if the information sought is more practical to obtain through interrogations than other means, like depositions or document requests. Court leave required for additional interrogatories. To go beyond the limits in A and B, a party must ask the court for leave, permission to serve additional or broader interrogatories. application in your case. The Wayfarer parties objected to Sloane's interrogatories under Rule 33.3, claiming the questions about who Sloane allegedly spoke to, what was said, etc., were not permissible at this stage. However, the Sloane parties argue these interrogatories do fall under Rule 33.3, identifying witnesses and relevant facts. Alternately, they say that the court should allow them under Rule 33.3 because it's more efficient than depositions to clarify these vague claims. Also, because Wayfarer didn't timely object based on Rule 33.3 in writing, that defense may be waived. And just a little citing here that I found interesting, the Sloane parties are saying basically, to wrap it all up, to sum it all up, if you're suing us for defamation, you need to tell us exactly what you say we said, to whom, and where, and when. You can't keep hiding behind vague claims. This is what they said. You can't keep hiding behind vague claims and then dodge our questions with a procedural technicality you didn't even invoke in writing. That's what they've said to the Wayfarer parties. And they're asking the judge to force Wayfarer to answer. I think it's a little fishy. I think Brian Freeman knows what he is and is not able to do, and that they know that they don't have to answer this. That's just my opinion. But that's basically what they said. Hey, we asked you who it was, when it was, what article, what journalist, when, where, blah, 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 blah. We want to know who you're talking to. And if you can't give us this, then, why are we here kind of thing, basically. Well, the Wayfarers did respond. It didn't take them long, and it's actually pretty good because they're saying, Sloane girl, you ain't got nothing. You don't know what you're doing. That's what I got from it, but we're going to go over it because it was only like 4 pages and I found some pretty relevant information. I thought that it was pretty good, well written, and it wasn't like 100 and something pages to go through or whatever, So, yeah, it was pretty interesting because Brian Freeman goes on to say that, like, we did provide you with all of the stuff within the scope of what you're asking for, and in the amended complaint, we did put everything in there that says who you spoke to, when it was, et cetera, but let's just read it over because I found it to be very, very interesting. Let's just do some lip gloss first. Emotional support lip gloss. Okay, so this was filed on May 2nd. The Sloane parties have notice of the claim against them. So just a response to basically what Leslie Sloane has come out and said. I think that's better. The Sloane parties have notice of the claims against them. The false light premise of the Sloane parties' motion is that they purportedly lack notice of the Wayfarer parties' claims against them. However, the Wayfarer parties' amended complaint alleges that the Sloane... Whoa, I'm way up here and you guys are way down here. Okay, I think that's better. So this was filed on May 2nd by the Wayfarer parties, Dear Judge Lyman, and then it goes on to all of the people, all of the Wayfarer parties. The Sloane parties have notice of the claims against them. The false premise of the Sloane parties' motion is that they purportedly lack notice of the Wayfarer parties' claim against them. However, the Wayfarer parties' amended complaint alleges that the Sloane parties made statements to the third parties, including the New York Times, to the effect that Baldoni is a sexual predator who sexually assaulted Lively. Okay, so even if we are just talking about some SH on set and like Blake Lively's claims, even if those were true, the things that she claimed, for her representative to go and say sexual assault, damn, okay? Damn. Number one. To the effect that Baldoni is a sexual predator who sexually assaulted Lively, and that Baldoni retaliated against Lively and others for reporting the alleged sexual misconduct, including by propagating false and misleading narratives about Lively for the purpose of damaging her image and reputation. The amended complaint alleges that the Sloane parties made further false statements in response to media inquiries concerning Lively's wrongful accumulation of power over the production, how she did so, false accusations of sexual misconduct, and the resulting turmoil. Specifically, the Sloane party stated to the Daily Mail that reports of a power struggle were set on set were 1,000% untrue. Your info is totally off. You have it all wrong. Your reporters are so wrong. Instead, the Sloane parties seeded false information to cast Baldoni rather than Lively in a false light. The whole cast doesn't like Justin. Nothing to do with Blake. They, the Wayfarer parties, are panicking as the whole cast hates Baldoni. And then in the footnotes here, the Sloane parties falsely and gratuitously allege that Melissa Nathan surreptitiously when I was reading this to myself, I really had it in my head. Surreptitiously listened to Miss Sloane's phone calls in violation of California's wiretapping statute. Amazingly, 2 sentences later, the Sloane parties acknowledge that they lack knowledge about whether the Daily Mail or Nathan added the other to a private conversation without Miss Sloane's consent. In other words, the Sloane parties have no knowledge that Nathan did anything inappropriate. In any event, and putting aside the recklessness of the allegations, the conduct described by the Sloane parties does not constitute wiretapping under the cited statute. The amended complaint also alleges that the Sloane parties made one or more statements to third parties, including to the New York Times, to the effect that the Wayfarer parties engaged in, permitted, and or failed to prevent sexually inappropriate conduct toward Lively and others, and retaliated against Lively for reporting the alleged sexual misconduct, including by propagating false narratives about Lively for the purpose of damaging her image and reputation. The pleading alleges that the Sloane parties told the New York Times a false and damning story about an insidious PR sabotage operation deployed as revenge for sexual harassment complaints, with the knowledge and intent that the newspaper would publish the false story, and that the Sloane parties propounded a false smear campaign narrative designed to destroy the Wayfarer parties. Interrogatory number 3 is overly broad. Interrogatory number 3 requests identify each person you allege the Sloane parties communicated with regarding the Wayfarer parties. As set forth in the Wayfarer parties' formal responses and objections, this interrogatory is not limited to matter that is relevant to any party claim or defense. The Sloane parties contend that the relevance of this interrogatory is obvious, given that the Wayfarer parties are asserting claims for defamation and false light based upon unidentified conversations Ms. Sloane allegedly had with unidentified persons at unidentified time using unidentified words. However, the interrogatory is not limited to identifying the names of witnesses with knowledge of information relevant to the subject matter of this action, as required by Local Civil Rule 33.3. Meaning they don't have to tell you nothing right now. You know what I mean? The Sloane parties conceded that interrogatory number 3 is overly broad, and they narrowed it only to seek the identification of people with whom they communicated, to the extent those communications are relevant to the claims and defense in this action. However, the Wayfarer parties responded to a different interrogatory seeking broader information. Interrogatory number 1 requests the identification of any person believed or known by you to have any information or knowledge concerning any event, fact, matter, act, allegation, or issue included in or raised by the complaint or amended complaint you filed in number 25 Civ 449 or this action. In response, the Wayfarer parties incorporated by reference their initial disclosure, which the Sloane parties admit disclosed over 150 individuals and entities. What? So they already gave it to you in response 1? Leslie Sloane, come on. Contrary to Sloane's contention, the Wayfarer parties did not waive their Local Civil Rule 33.3 objection to interrogatory number 3, and cases cited by the Sloane parties for that proposition are easily distinguished. The court held that the plaintiff waived its Rule 33.3 based objection because it never mentioned Local Civil Rule 33.3 specifically, and failed to explain why each of the interrogatories was objectionable under that rule. Here, the Wayfarer party's general objections, which are expressly incorporated into each specific response, objects to each interrogatory to the extent that it exceeds the scope of interrogatories set forth in Local Civil Rule 33.3. The defendant therein violated the court's order by failing to respond to interrogatories by a specific date, which certainly is not the case here. Interrogatories numbers 4, 5, and 7 are improper. Interrogatories numbers 4, 5, and 7 seek the identification of A, each alleged defamatory statement, B, each malicious story portraying Baldoni as a sexual predator, and C, each of the stories critical of Baldoni. These are impermissible contention interrogatories that exceed the scope of Local Civil Rule 33.3. Okay. In their plea for leave to exceed Local Rule 33.3a, the Sloan parties disingenuously contend that they need a basic roadmap of the claims against them to prepare their defense. However, as detailed above, the amended complaint specifies the media outlets with whom Ms. Sloan conversed, approximately when she spoke to them, and the words she used during those conversations, to the extent that the Wayfarer parties have specific knowledge of facts relating to her defamatory statements. If Ms. Sloan engaged in other defamatory conduct, she will not need to guess which of those are defamatory because she is the one who made the statements. As for her need for the news articles the Wayfarer parties allege are defamatory or otherwise actionable, she will obtain them in document discovery. They are not playing. They are not playing. Request for production number 32 is improper. Request number 32 seeks documents upon which the Wayfarer parties intend to rely in drafting a further amended complaint. Second amended complaint does not exist, may never exist, and of course has not been filed. In response, the Wayfarer parties object on the grounds that the request seeks information protected from disclosure by the attorney-client privilege, work product doctrine, and any other applicable privilege. The Wayfarer parties further objected to the request as premature because a second amended complaint does not exist. The case cited by the Sloan party stands for the unremarkable proposition that a party must produce documents referenced in its pleadings. If a second amended complaint is filed, the Wayfarer parties will produce all non-privileged documents relevant to the claims therein, located upon a diligent search to the extent that such documents have not therefore been produced, including any documents referenced in such currently non-existent pleading. So she's basically asking for files that don't even exist yet because there is no complaint within those files. I think it's kind of funny the way he just tells it like it is, and they will produce including any documents referenced in such currently non-existing pleading. We respectfully request that the court deny the Sloan's party's motion to compel. Unfortunately, Sloan's party's true purpose in filing the motion is not to compel discovery, but rather to re-argue their sub judice motion to dismiss, which they anticipate will be denied based upon the court's denial of their motion to stay discovery pending their dismissal motion. So they're just trying to buy time. That's basically what he's saying, is that they're just trying to re-argue their motion to dismiss, which was already, not gonna happen. And yeah, that's it for me, y'all, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a great Friday. I know this was all about the Wayfarer and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and all of that, and I'm so sorry. It's just, some days it's just when it rains, it pours, and there is a lot to get into, especially right now with them just every day out in the media doing some crazy stuff every day. And at this point, it's beyond infuriating. I would say it's just laughable because they're jokes. It's a joke. No one's buying it. And what I really want to leave here with is I hope all of the people right now who are communicating with Wayfarer, all the journalists who were contacted by Leslie Sloane and Blake Lively's camp, everyone coming forward to tell their story, I hope more people come forward and tell the truth. I hope more people who are on set of It Ends With Us, more people who know Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath and the Wayfarer parties, more people start coming forward and speaking up, because Blake was right when she said that people are in fear of speaking up, because you know who's in fear? They're in fear of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and all of their dragons. And that's why no one's speaking up. I just saw an episode on Popcorn Planet. They're doing an amazing documentary on this whole It Ends With Never. I don't know what they're calling it, but. And they're saying that they had, distributors and production companies who were interested in the film, but now that they know that it's not going to cast such a good light on Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they're pulling it and they're hesitant. And a lot of people are hesitant, like obviously Seth Meyers, who was bought to have Blake Lively on the show, the Time 100, who was bought to have Blake Lively there. There's still a lot of people who are very afraid of the power that they hold, and I'm very confused as to why. I really don't understand, because before It Ends With Us, the disastrous PR tour, I knew nothing about Blake Lively. I didn't know that she held any power, quite frankly. And Ryan Reynolds, I don't get it. I don't get it. I didn't know that they had their hands in so many things, and then the spider web runs very deep, but we will uncover a lot more as we go on, because what is done in the dark will come to light. And I just think, honestly, if you see something, say something. I mean, I'm repeating something that plays on the transit here, and that, there are times that you do need to just stand up for what's right, and there is a time that good will prevail over evil. And I think that this is a time and a pivotal moment right now, and I hope that the media and the talk shows and the journalists who keep reporting on behalf of Blake and Ryan in good light and are being bought essentially and paid to promote them and showcase them. And, I hope that they really can look inside of their hearts and see that a handful of people's lives have been destroyed. Not just Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath, but so many others who are involved here. Justin is a husband, he is a father, and he is being accused of something that he didn't do, because Blake Lively needed someone to blame, and she was afraid to look in the mirror and blame herself. So I think at times, and that's important to say, that it does happen that there are pivotal moments in one's life where something happens to you and you rise above it and you come out stronger. If you look back at all of the times where you've had this exponential change and this growth, you can usually tie it down to a pivotal moment. And I think somewhere along the line, we can get in a habit of needing those pivotal moments in order to change, in order to grow. But that can also trap you into a victim mindset. And I think Blake needed to change her brand, and in order to do that, she needed someone to blame, honestly. And I just hope that we can all expand and grow and change without waiting for something to crush us. I think we can all rise above and grow. And yeah, I don't know. If you see something that's wrong and you know that there is some evils going on, I think it's everyone's responsibility to be a good friend, a good neighbor, a good colleague, a good woman, a good man, and a good brother and a good sister, because at the end of the day, we're all human. And, there are things happening, especially on set, that do happen to women still to this day, children, women, etc., etc. And now, because of Blake, people are going to be afraid to speak up, not the other way around. And I just hope that if something happens to you and you are violated, which God willing, I hope never happens to you, you know that you have people around you who will believe you and support you, and that you have the courage and the faith and the strength to speak up and fight. But in this case, it's a sham. I fully believe it to my core, or I wouldn't be sitting here doing the work that I'm doing. So with that said, I don't know if that was inspiring or motivating or anything. That's just my truth. I just feel like it's just so sad. It's honestly, I'll be honest with you right now. It's pathetic. Ryan and Blake, pathetic. You heard me? Okay. Well, maybe I'll just pick a card, because I don't feel like that was leaving anyone with any positive energy at all. I think we all have the courage for change, and I think that it is possible. I'm a true testament, but it takes a very long time. Obviously not everyone, the time is such a construct, so it doesn't take the same amount of time for everyone, but it doesn't happen overnight, okay? Let's see what we got. You can either worry or believe in yourself. Which one feels better? Listen here, bitch. Yeah, exactly. So you can either listen to all of the voices in your head telling you you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, you're too much of this, you're too that, you're too, or you can just go for it. And that's actually really good, because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but in my last couple of videos, I kept up my mistakes. Like when I pronounce certain words, I've kept them in for a reason. I used to edit them all out and try to make it like perfect and pronunciation perfect and everything perfect. But then I found that that was very disingenuous and not a service to anyone, because I want it to be known that you don't have to be perfect to start. You don't have to be perfect, You can just start with whatever you want right now, today, who you are. You don't have to work to be someone or do something. You have it inside of you already, and you don't have to have it all figured out, and you don't have to be perfect in order to just take the first step to whatever you want to do. Okay? You have the power inside of you. So yes, you can listen to all of those voices that are telling you that you're not good enough and you're not worthy and da-da-da-da-da-da. Or you can say, you know what? Thank you so much for that today. I'm not going to listen to that today because I don't need it today. Thank you so much for showing up. But you know what? I'm going to tune into this frequency that's telling me that it's always been my right. My birthright since I was born is to thrive, is for abundance, is to be full, and I am full already. So I'm going to listen to this one that's telling me that I don't have to beg to be valuable. I don't have to beg to be worthy, because I was born worthy. And I am here regardless of perfection, and my imperfections actually make me perfect. Okay? Just start. Whatever that project is, whatever that dream is, whatever that goal is, you don't have to wait any longer. You can just start by taking the first step. Okay? Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. I hope you have the most beautiful, amazing weekend, whatever that is for you. I love you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.